Stephanie White got purely out-coached from beginning to end. After the first 60 seconds, after the first minute of this game,
I do want to see Caitlin Clark get crazy, which is why I keep saying, come back, Cece. But the fact of the matter is she can't save this team.
That seems to be the situation we have with one Stephanie White.
Stephanie White is in serious trouble for getting swept by the Golden State Valkyries.
We're still trying to recover from whatever it was we watched last night involving the Indiana Fever and the Golden State Valkyries.
I'm tired of you blaming everybody else for everything. It is sickening at this point, Stephanie White.
2 minutes ago, the game was out of reach. Stephanie White offered no solutions, made no changes, and once again let her players take the fall while she escaped criticism. Tonight, the weight of pressure is greater than ever.
Stephanie White got purely out-coached from beginning to end. After the first 60 seconds, after the first minute of this game, it was a wrap. It was a wrap.
Stephanie White had this team unprepared from the start. Aaliyah Boston only managed 7 shots, left standing at the top of the key looking lost. White herself admitted they weren't ready in the opening minutes, yet never took responsibility. Instead, she once again pushed the blame onto her players, avoiding accountability for another costly defeat.
Stephanie White did not have this team ready to play. Aaliyah Boston got up 7 shots. She's standing at the top of the key, acting like the joke. I don't understand what's going on. I should have had them ready to come out and play. We had a bad first 5-6 minutes. That falls on me. She hasn't said it one time.
We opened the game unprepared in those first 5 or 6 minutes, but why? That's the question Stephanie White never answers. As head coach, it's her job to have the team ready, yet she consistently shifts the blame onto her players. Losing to a franchise that didn't even exist last season only adds to the embarrassment, and fans are holding White squarely responsible.
We came out and we weren't ready those first 5-6 minutes of the quarter.
Why weren't we? Can someone please ask her to elaborate on that? Why were we not ready? As a head coach, you should be ready. I'm sick of this. Y'all lost to a team that didn't even exist last year. You got swept by them. They are a team, no disrespect, full of unprotected players. That's who y'all lost. Meanwhile, y'all over here picking who y'all want.
She once again admitted the team wasn't ready in the opening minutes, but why does this keep happening? Outside of weaker opponents, Indiana always starts flat and gets dominated early. That's a direct reflection of poor preparation from the coach. Stephanie White has turned into a disaster, unable to have her team ready and quick to deflect blame whenever things fall apart.
It affected the rhythm, but I don't know if it affected the ready. So what, your team wasn't ready to play again? Your team wasn't ready to play per usual, per the routine? If there's one thing this Indiana Fever is consistent on, it's consistently not being ready to play, courtesy of the head coach. Stephanie White is a disaster. We need to be honest with ourselves.
We did what we could to work through the issue, and kudos to everybody that had a hand in at least working it out. But then we came out and we weren't ready those first 5-6 minutes of the quarter.
EA questioned, is Stephanie White actually trying to lose on purpose? Running a zone defense against a team with 4 deadly shooters was baffling. Golden State thrives on the 3-point shot, yet White refused to adjust. Fans who once had her back are now turning away, saying her choices are sabotaging the team, and that's exactly why her job is in real danger.
EA stated, is Stephanie White trying to lose this game on purpose, playing zone when they have 4 legitimate shooters on the floor, on top of the fact that Golden State Valkyrie take and makes the most threes initially? Is mind-boggling to say the least. I defended this lady all year and she pulls this. I'm done, bro. Fever Valkyrie's time delay was so long they started playing the connections online. Wow, this is terrible. And then it was this right here, man. He said our coach thought it was a good idea to play zone.
Running zone against a team stacked with 3-point shooters was doomed from the start. And that decision falls squarely on Stephanie White. Fans are calling her embarrassing and unfit to coach, furious over her stubborn refusal to adjust. The frustration online is boiling over, with many insisting Indiana must fire her now before she drags Caitlin Clark's team out of playoff contention entirely.
The Fever loss is on Stephanie White, so stop tiptoeing around this. You think Becky Hammond goes a whole game and instructs Asia Wilson to only take 7 shots for 4 points? Stephanie White's severely incompetent, can't comprehend basketball basics. Fire her. It's crazy. It's crazy. The Fever playing zone against a team that has 4+ 3-point shooters was always a recipe for disaster. This horrible strategy is on Stephanie White. Stephanie White is embarrassing. She's not a good coach. I don't care who likes her.
Stephanie White's game plan left shooters wide open from the start. Ileana Rupert, the league's top 3-point threat, was left unguarded, a baffling tactical choice. That mistake exposed White's poor judgment and ended up costing the team in a big way.
Like, Stephanie White left him open to start the game. It's as simple as that. Like, everyone's like, oh, this team shot 60% from 3. Outside of a step back from Janelle Salon, they were all open shots. Like, they decided not to guard Ileana Rupert. Ileana Rupert is leading the WNBA in 3-point percentage. Like, I understand, okay, yeah, she's a center, but she's a sniper. And not only that, like, why is Natasha Howard leaving her open? Ileana Rupert is the reason why there's games where Natasha Howard sits her ass on the bench for Merson.
You're riding on Caitlin Clark's back. The team is only putting up 15 points a quarter, a flat-out awful showing. Without Clark carrying them, Stephanie White's weak coaching is completely exposed.
15 points a quarter? Hold on, wait a second. Is everybody supposed to be getting more money here? Is everybody supposed to be getting more? I don't see why everybody's supposed to eat more. I don't see it. No. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Y'all trying to eat off the back of Caitlin Clark. We're not playing that game. 15 points per quarter? Who the hell want to watch that? This was bad product. This was bad TV. This was bad TV, man.
On one side, Natalie Nass pushes her players to their full potential. On the other, Stephanie White stands on the sideline, arms crossed, seemingly detached. With Caitlin Clark on this roster, losses like these point to nothing but poor coaching.
We have one side, Natalie Nakase, who gets the most out of her players, who gets the best out of her players, who draws up plays to get players in a position to win, puts them in a position to succeed. And then we have Stephanie White, who stands on the sidelines with her arms crossed and her head in the cloud. The Indiana Fever got punked tonight, 75-63. This game was close for the first 65 seconds.
Ariel highlighted the defensive breakdowns as Golden State knocked down 7 of 8 threes. Even White admitted the Fever overhelped, over-rotated, and left shooters wide open. Her own words exposed the coaching failures that now have her under heavy fire.
Ariel pointed to the defensive misuse and the Golden State started 7 of 8 from 3. Mm-hmm. I think shot over 50% from the field. Yep. Just what were they able to do?
Well, they're really good at spacing the floor. Their passes are on time and on target. So you can't make a lot of defensive mistakes. And I felt like we overhelped. I mean, we were trying to not allow catch and shoot threes. We didn't want to overhelp on drivers. We overhelped. We over-rotated. The timing on our rotation wasn't very good, and we gave them wide open catch and shoot threes. And they are a really good team when they can get that.
Aaliyah Boston finishing with just 4 points is unacceptable. Even without Caitlin Clark, Stephanie White failed to create opportunities for her star. This is why she's facing serious heat, accused of wasting the team's talent and holding them back.
Aaliyah Boston having 4 points is absolutely inexcusable. I don't know what has to be done at this point to drive it home that she needs to be touching the ball. She needs to be given more opportunities. And because Caitlin Clark is not in the lineup is not an excuse to not get her the ball.
Stephanie White claimed Aaliyah Boston lacked aggression, yet fans questioned why she was parked at the 3-point line all game. With Odyssey Sims going 1 for 10 and Aerial Powers forcing shots, White still dodged accountability. Rather than directing Boston to dominate inside, she kept her out of the paint and then blamed the players for the poor offense, unfairly shifting the spotlight onto Caitlin Clark's teammates.
Odyssey Sims was 1 for 10. Aerial Powers came off the bench. She just got a job like 13 minutes ago. She took 13 shots. Aaliyah Boston is the one who wasn't aggressive and wasn't shooting. Don't you think you play a part in that by having her stand at the 3-point line all game?
White argued the Fever were jogging the ball up the floor and letting defenses settle, but fans called out the hypocrisy. When Caitlin Clark ran the offense, White constantly told her to slow down. Now she blames the team for lacking pace without her. These mixed messages have thrown the Fever into chaos, leaving players to pay the price while White sidesteps responsibility.
We didn't play with any kind of pace. So even when we had opportunities to run in transition, we were jogging the ball up the floor. We allowed them to set their defense, and they're one of the best defensive teams in the league.
Bro, you know why I can't stand her, bro? Because when Clark had the ball, she constantly said, slow down, you got to slow it down, you got to slow it down. Remember that? She kept telling Clark to slow down. Now, all of a sudden, she's like, yeah, we're allowing them to like set their defense up. That's because you wanted it slow. Make up your mind.
Stephanie White downplayed Caitlin Clark's injury, claiming her quad strain wasn't tied to the preseason issue, even though it was the same leg. Fans saw it as another false narrative, sparking anger over her lack of honesty. By prioritizing her own image over Clark's well-being, White has only deepened the distrust in her leadership.
That seems to be the situation we have with one Stephanie White. She lied to get out of Connecticut, lied her way to Indiana, lied how she's going to utilize Caitlin Clark, lied about the vets that she's bringing in, lie after lie after lie after lie. Lied about Caitlin Clark's injuries, lied about Caitlin Clark's returns. Stephanie White is just a pathological liar. We have Stephanie White lying about the quad. Remember when Caitlin Clark hurt her quad again after sitting out preseason games? She comes back, re-injures the quad. Steph White says Caitlin Clark reported some pain in her quad following the Liberty game. She got an MRI and was diagnosed with a quad strain, one that isn't related to her preseason injury. Just coincidentally, it's the same quad, but it has nothing to do with her preseason injury.
Aaliyah Boston was held to just 4 points, and fans blame White's flawed system and relentless travel demands. Natasha Howard and Kelsey Mitchell offered little, while Odyssey Sims all but vanished. Supporters argued that with better coaching, Boston could have carried the team. Instead, under White's direction, players looked lost, and her refusal to adjust made it seem like she was setting them up to fail.
But let's head on over to the box score, because she was not the only one that needed to be fired up, because none other than superstar player Aaliyah Boston. Everybody know I love Aaliyah Boston, but Aaliyah Boston was nowhere to be found yesterday. She had 4 damn points. 4 points, 3 assists, and 6 rebounds. Had Aaliyah Boston showed up to this game, they win. They win, bro. I truly believe it's the traveling, man. Natasha Howard, 13 and 6. Kelsey Mitchell, 14, 3 and 2. Odyssey Sims did not show up, but Ariel Powers did. It's always one or the other. I feel like they're going to have to sign Ariel Powers to extend her.
The Fever's play was labeled outright organizational malpractice. Aaliyah Boston vanished with just 4 points. Natasha Howard was ripped for constant traveling, and fans said White had zero control over her roster. On top of that, she was accused of mishandling Chloe Beebe's injury and covering it up, just as she did with Clark. Supporters now believe these choices show Stephanie White is directly responsible for Caitlin Clark's team falling apart.
And of course, Aaliyah Boston, no shows, gives us 4 points. And Natasha Howard packing a bag and throwing it over her back and proceeding to travel around the country. Well, Natasha Howard is gotten destroyed since last night, as has Stephanie White, or as we have now affectionately started calling her in Ben Daniels' chat during games, Methany White. Yeah. My God. I mean, she's not going to bench Natasha Howard. If a player's struggling, and by the way, what's the deal with Chloe Bibby, Stephanie White? You claimed she didn't have a setback, but when you go from able to play, available, to not able to play.
The Fever had the talent advantage, but Stephanie White's reactionary coaching squandered it. Rather than letting Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston take control, she coached scared, obsessed with stopping the other team. That fear-driven approach has now put her in serious trouble.
Which we did in the second half against the Atlanta Dream when Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White into a shouting match going into the locker room. Why is it that we have to play reactionary basketball. Why can we not just say we've got the best players on the court? We have the 2 best players on the court. Let's make them play our game. Let's make sure Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston are able to get theirs. We have the more talent because they do. The Indiana Fever had way more talent last night. Everyone's like, oh, the Indiana Fever, you know.
Stephanie White should be ashamed. Aaliyah Boston delivered just 4 points and 6 rebounds in 30 minutes, and fans are livid. They blame White for failing to hold her stars accountable and allowing such an embarrassing performance to unfold.
Stephanie White, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. Aaliyah Boston, your ass didn't even show up. You might as well have kept your ass in Indiana or wherever you was. You had no reason. You had no reason to even show up to the arena tonight. No reason to even show up to the arena, man. 4 points, 6 rebounds in 30 minutes. 4.6 rebounds.
Aaliyah Boston managed just 4 points on 2 for 7 shooting, while Odyssey Sims went 1 for 10. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark remains held back under White's system. Rather than unleashing her star, White restricts Clark, while others flounder a decision that keeps piling up the losses.
Aaliyah Boston, 2 for 7. 1, 2, 3, 4 points for AB. Odyssey Sims, 1 for 10. Odyssey Sims has a green light that I wish Caitlin Clark would get if and when she comes back. If Caitlin Clark has the same green light that Odyssey Sims has, Caitlin Clark would be giving us 30 every night. But Stephanie White holds her back. Stephanie White puts the reins on Caitlin Clark. Stephanie White muzzles Caitlin Clark so everybody else can shine, so everybody else can succeed.
White admitted the Fever lacked pace and aggression, even slowing down in transition and letting defenses get set. That lack of urgency falls directly on her coaching, putting her under the spotlight for the team's ongoing struggles.
It becomes a little bit more difficult. I just felt like we weren't aggressive. We were very tentative offensively. We didn't play with any kind of pace. So even when we had opportunities to run in transition, we were jogging the ball up the floor. We allowed them to set their defense, and they're one of the best defensive teams in the league, and you can't allow them to do that.
The Valkyries have dominated the Fever this season, with Natalie Nass outcoaching Stephanie White at every turn. Whether Caitlin Clark plays or not, Indiana continues to collapse while White dodges accountability. Fans see it as undeniable proof that she's wasting the team's talent.
They have the Fever's number, home, away, every possible lineup. And this makes me, concerned because this loss for the Fever dropped them to the 8th position, which I thought they would pretty much avoid. You don't really want to be the 8th seed. You got to see the Lynx in the first round. Lynx have been the best team in the league. Of course, Fever have had success against the Lynx. But I think if you're a Fever fan, you kind of want to maybe see Phoenix or Atlanta in the first round.
Stephanie White told the media the team needed to learn from the loss, but fans immediately called out her refusal to bench Natasha Howard, despite constant turnovers and travels. Many believe White protected Howard due to promises made, and as the mistakes piled up, the game slipped away. Supporters argued it's not just the players who need to learn, it's White herself, as her poor rotations and flawed game plans keep dragging Caitlin Clark's team into defeat.
They killed us and allowed them to go on runs, and so we gotta learn from this one, and we gotta go into Phoenix, and we gotta be better.
Yeah, we need to learn. No, you need to learn as well. You need to learn from your mess ups. You need to learn from your rotation blunders. You need to learn from your trash game plans. You need to learn about not having Aaliyah Boston standing at the 3-point line all game and actually put her in the paint. You need to learn from this too. Don't just talk about what everybody else need to learn. Your ass got some learning to do. It's as simple as that.
Frustrated fans went as far as saying they don't want the Fever in the playoffs. Slow starts, no real plays, and constant defensive lapses were all pinned on White. One even called her an agent, not a coach, arguing the team has looked lost all season. For many, her excuses and refusal to take accountability have erased any faith in her leading Clark's team.
Y'all are never ready when y'all come out. Y'all always have to come back. What is your job description? What are you actually doing over there? They're never ready to play. You can't draw up a play. Your defense sucks. Like you're a fucking agent, bro. You are. Like, it's just sad. Like, how did we get here from last season?
Critics pointed out that while rival teams start sharp and prepared, the Fever fall apart early. Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston are often forced into superhuman efforts just to keep the team afloat, while White stands by with her arms crossed. Fans say wins come from the players, but losses always get pinned on them, a pattern that has many labeling White a disaster.
Would you look at that? Natalie Nakaze raises her voice instead of crossing her arms, and the players respond. Again, Stephanie White, I'm over you, man. I'm over you. Caitlin Clark can come back, save your ass. She can come back, save the rest of this season, salvage. Stephanie, I'm done with you. I don't need to see you on the sidelines anymore crossing your arms. I don't need to see you in these press conferences using all this basketball speech. I don't care for it. It means nada to me. Because what you show on the court contradicts what you say in the press conference. You talk a good game, you don't actually put one forth. You talk like a head coach, you don't really act like a head. The players go out and play, and you sit on the sidelines with your arms crossed. That's how this season.
After yet another post-game interview where White dodged responsibility, fans blasted her for lying and shifting blame. Viewers pointed out she ran a defensive scheme that let Golden State torch them with threes, yet she acted as if it wasn't on her. Supporters were outraged, saying her excuses are ruining Caitlin Clark's team and that it's time to move on from her leadership.
Yeah, I mean, every game is important, and certainly when you have an opportunity to play against opponents that you're vying for playoff implications, it is. And it's one game at a time for us, and focusing on the next opponent. And I felt like anytime we potentially had an opportunity, I mean, it was like a 5-point game with 7.5 minutes left. We had an opportunity to close the gap, and we just had some mental breakdowns that killed us and allowed them to go on runs. And so, we gotta learn from this one, and we gotta go into Phoenix, and we gotta be better.
The backlash against White is now so strong that fans are openly calling for her and her staff to be fired. They say her poor strategies and misuse of the team's top players are embarrassing the Fever. Some even believe she coaches like she doesn't want to win.
Real Sandy Brondello and Stephanie White on consecutive days with CTE coaching. Don't do that to Sandy. No, Sandy's got a championship. The only way Stephanie White's getting a championship is she goes somewhere and steals one. Like this is national treasure. I mean, come on. This guy, number one, Stephanie White and all her coaching staff needs to be fired. People pissed, man. I'm telling you. People are pissed.
Stephanie White's game plan relies on hoping opponents miss instead of letting the Fever dictate with Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston. She forces slow, defensive slogs that stifle her own talent. That passive approach has now backfired, putting her under intense criticism.
For me, that's just the most frustrating thing to watch about this Indiana Fever team, is they're so scared to lose. Stephanie White is so scared about games is that her entire game plan is based around what the other team want to do. And it's worked. It worked against the Minnesota Lynx in the Commissioner's Cup. It worked, but you don't coach the Connecticut Sun anymore. You don't coach Alyssa Thomas. You don't coach DeWanna Bonner. You don't coach Dejanay Carrington. You don't coach Bree Jones. Trying to make it a grinded out, ugly game.
Stephanie White is seen as mediocre, at best overrated and overhyped. She refuses to develop young talent like Michaela Timpson, instead leaning on aging veterans. That stubborn approach has left the Fever dependent on Caitlin Clark, exposing White's inability to truly lead.
Natalie Nakaska, Nuns, whatever her name is, she's way better than what we got. I just got to keep it real. She's way better than what we got. It is what it is. Stephanie White is mediocre at best. You're overrated. You're overhyped. You don't know how to develop young players, clearly, which is why Michaela Timpson can't get in the game. You'll keep letting old-ass, washed-up-ass Natasha Howard play 30 minutes a game, and she's a bad fit on this team. She can't make jump shots. She can't shoot threes. She can't dribble the ball up without tripping over her feet, dribbling the ball out of bounds, traveling, turning it over, throwing the ball all over. Like, she can't play.
On the sidelines, Stephanie White stood with her arms crossed while Natalie Nass actively coached. Even as Valkyrie players drained open shots, White offered no adjustments. Her passive approach is a key reason fans blame her for the Fever's struggles.
We look to the sideline, Stephanie White just standing there with her arms crossed. Meanwhile, Natalie Nakaze directing, leading, coaching. Ileana Rupert had 21 points. Who? Ileana Rupert, 21 points. Outplaying AB. Wow. Tammy Fag-Bentley, 6 points, 6 rebounds.
White admitted that mental lapses late in the game cost the Fever. With only a 5-point difference, The team crumbled instead of finishing strong. Her failure to adjust has now put her coaching under intense scrutiny.
Potentially had an opportunity. I mean, it was like a 5-point game with 7.5 minutes left. We had an opportunity to close the gap, and we just had some mental breakdowns that killed us and allowed them to go on runs. And so, we gotta learn from this one, and we gotta go into Phoenix, and we gotta be better.
I'm done with you blaming everyone else for everything. It's sickening, Stephanie White. You are not a leader. Enough is enough. She needs to go. The team's never ready. There are no plays, and the defense is a disaster. The players go out there and either win or lose the game. You never outcoach the other team.
I'm tired of you blaming everybody else for everything. It is sickening at this point, Stephanie White. You are ridiculous. You are not a leader.
Enough is enough. We need to get her out of here. We didn't come out ready. We weren't ready to play. Why not? Y'all are never ready when y'all come out. Y'all always have to come back. What is your job description? What are you actually doing over there?
The players go out and play, and either the players win the game or the players lose the game. Never do you win the game.
Stephanie White, you're the one who let them go on those runs with your defensive schemes. Fans are finished with your excuses. The Fever's loss falls squarely on Stephanie White, no tiptoeing around it. She's clearly incompetent and struggles with even the basics of basketball.
Well, Stephanie White, you was the one that allowed them to go on those runs with the defense that you ran. Like let's all be honest.
The Fever loss is on Stephanie White, so stop tiptoeing around this. You think Becky Hammond goes a whole game and instructs Asia Wilson to only take 7 shots for 4 points? Stephanie White's severely incompetent, can't comprehend basketball basics.
Stephanie White's excuses won't save her, but your voice can be heard. Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more updates.